Welcome to the channel with Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Excuse me. Conflict resolution in today's society is almost non-existent. They have counselling centres and therapy rooms and training courses for businesses to help people to learn how to sort out conflict. And today, with all the options that people have with the meat market of dating sites, the jump and go mentality, if a resolve cannot be found in a relationship, the options that people have to avoid resolve are second to none in all of history. When you're in a relationship, there's always going to be elements of conflict. That's just a given. But what do you do when the conflict's coming from the outside the relationship? And there's a element of value from the person that you're with for the other person that's causing the conflict. A value in the sense of, this ain't going to be fixed, this definitely ain't going to be confronted, and it's just going to be a matter of time before it wears everybody out. Well, the bottom line of it is, if that's how you see it and that's how you recognize it, you just leave. But what if you decide to find or try to find a resolution? Well, that's going to depend on how much time you want to invest into the relationship relative to the person that you're with not having the value to want to resolve the situation. A lot of people don't want to face the issues. They don't want to face the problem because it's all too hard, it's not part of their personality. But there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for allowing conflict to cause unrest, confusion as to people's commitments, what the position is of that person's heart in your life, and most of all, the psychological assault and torment that unresolved causes in the mind of the person that hasn't caused the problem. You cannot, and let me say this, and it's true when you're dealing with micro-incremental dark triad personality traits, characteristic traits in people, the last ones to admit that they're operating in this sphere is themselves, because they usually don't know. They haven't been raised in a way in which they're self-aware enough to understand what they're doing. But when the problem's been identified, and can be delusion, it can be jealousy, it can be a tussle for a person's attention, it can be territorial. We don't want this person on our territory. You got to ask yourself if it's worth your time to try and battle it out, and how much time are you willing to put into seeing if there's going to be a resolve. Will this person's value rise for the relationship and let's get things fixed? Or will this person idle and then decline? Because idle, after a certain point, will cause an overheat. Unresolved's got a way of just wrecking things. And you don't just leave a car sitting there idling for the sake of it. One of my great friends, David Best, he died of prostate cancer. Very unfortunate and untimely way to die. Shock to all of us and everyone that knew him. Just an outstanding man, an asset to the community. Wonderful husband and father. Gone. He was a diesel mechanic, and he always said the worst thing you can do for a truck is leave it sitting there idling. Truck engines do not like to sit there and idle. And I never forgot that. And so it is with unresolved, with issues that can be resolved, but because there's a triangulation situation where there's an outside party attacking the relationship, you can dance around the problem. You can try and make arrangements that go around the problem. It's like when you think of an ocean bars where it's netted off from the rest of the ocean. The sharks and things are still swimming around the outside of the net, and at some point you're coming out of that ocean barbs. Now, not necessarily to swim in the rest of the ocean. You're back on land, but the problem's still there. If you see, you can't, what unresolved does, it puts you in a box. And human nature doesn't like to be boxed in, doesn't like to be controlled, and it will find a way out. Unresolved is always 100% going to come back to bite you. And what the danger of that is, 9 times out of 10, it's going to destroy the relationship. That's the nature of it. That's why the skill is to stop the unresolved, deal with the unresolved. That's the key to it. You've got to dissolve the unresolved by resolve. And it's critical, absolutely critical. You'll have people that bring you into their life, or you go into their life, and my first question to myself is, if it becomes an exclusive relationship, well, how long is this going to last? And I say that in the positive tense, but you also have to have an element of awareness in hope that the person that you're getting involved with can follow through as the situation goes along. I've been in these relationships with these ladies for all in good intention on both sides, and there's been a few little skirmishes, and they have said, oh, you know, you've got to work your way through these things, and you do. And then the next thing, something comes up on their side, and it's just not going to be resolved. Could be resolved, but it's just not going to be resolved. I'll tell you why. It can be maternal, it can be a family member, it can be an ex, it can be an orbiter. A lot of people are in relationships now, and they protect themselves emotionally from the relationship through their children. They emotionally attach in the wrong way to their children, or an outsider, somebody outside the relationship, not including legitimate friends. And again, these are all signs of somebody that's just not going to completely commit. And you have to be aware of these things as you wear on in the relationship. These things will normally surface in the first 3 to 6 months. And you really do have to acknowledge the red flags. Now, what you do about it once you've seen them is up to you. A lot of us want to have confidence. A lot of us want the relationship to work out. People don't really want to swap and change, for the most part. You've got these ones that are just there, the narcissists, that they'll swap and change. It's all about supply, the next supply. If that supply runs out or the situation gets too tough, they go to the next supply and leave a trail of destruction behind them. And when people get hurt by these people for no reason at all, except the person's working in their passions and desires, evil passion and desires, as the Bible says, it causes damage to well-intending, well-adjusted people, because you're trying to navigate a relationship with somebody that's just not right. They're just not characteristically or psychologically right to be in one. It's like trying to walk a dog with no back legs. It's just dragging along, and that's the sense that you'll get. Why is this relationship dragging along? Why can't this relationship just get on with it and go forward? The person doesn't want to. The person that you're with doesn't want to. They're just holding you in a holding pattern, doing just enough to keep you on board while they live their split life. Their life isn't living out with you. You're just a form of supply as time goes by. And their emotional connection somewhere else. You'll see this all the time. And people get damaged and people get hurt because there's no go forward. And then, sure enough, you watch this. This is how triangulation works. The trouble, you'll find where the trouble's coming from. You always do, right? If you're not ignorant and blind, it's usually going to be from somebody inside their emotional support and security construct that's got an objection towards the loss of supply, some kind of supply that they're getting from your partner. So they'll undermine, or at least try to undermine and attack and assault the relationship. Now, if the person that you're with does not shut that down, like you might have a girlfriend and she's got this friend that she's had, this male friend that she's had for years and years, a hangers-on, right? She probably slept with him and it never worked out, but they've just hung on. That's a form of emotional abuse. You can't be in a relationship with people that are just toing and froing their emotions backward and forward between people without any regulation or substance or control. They're just spending themselves across the board and robbing the relationship of the emotional input that it needs. And if the person that you're with doesn't understand this, the best thing you can do is come to your senses. And this is what a lot of people refuse to do. They refuse to come to their senses, recognize the problem for what it is, and get out and get on with their life. The majority of people now do not know how to manage a relationship because there's too many options. And they get out and they bebop onto the next person and run that for as long as they can until that person's worn out. And then they go on and on and on. These trails of destruction are why the counselling and therapy clinics have got 10-week waits. They're making a fortune out of it. And might I say, 80% of the therapy and counselling industry is made up of women, who just by coincidence lately are the reason behind most of this trouble. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And a lot of the manosphere is trying to help men from getting caught up in these abusive, toxic relationships with these females that have really not made the effort to mature themselves in a way in which they can have a sensible and proper relationship. And now the new problem with single mums is they're attaching to their children in a surrogate way, and then they'll meet someone and all of a sudden you've got a conflict, a very strong, vehement conflict going on between the children, the mother, and the new partner. And it gets ugly. And it's now prevalent through our communities. There's no good trying to sweep this stuff under the carpet. It's happening right throughout our communities. And what will happen is the mother will go into a relationship, she'll meet somebody and it looks like there's got promise, and the children will go along with it at first, but because there's no a domestic regulation or boundaries in the family, when mum starts to disappear and give her attention to the new partner in an orderly way, not in a neglectful way to her children, the children just will not tolerate it, because the mother has over-attached, put these children in a parentified position and given them a sense of authority that they should never have had, and now they make life miserable, not just for the parent but also for the partner. It's vehement, it's relentless, and unless that parent speaks up, it doesn't stop. But guess what? 9 times out of 10, the woman will not speak up. They lose the relationship, gravitate back to the child, the golden child or the abused child, end up where they were before they started. Probably a little bit more damage than before, because you just can't have a relationship, abuse it and wreck it and think you're going to walk away without some kind of damage, until they get the opportunity to try again, and they'll change their tactic and protect themselves and the relationship from the abusing child. And this can happen with family members, friends, exes. You'll see a lot of ex-partners can be vehement towards the relationship. And what you'll find is a lot of these people are grandiosed, they've been pedestalized, they've got a certain amount of authority over this person. The person doesn't know how to unravel that in a constructive way without fear of losing the bond or the connection that they have with this jealous or troublesome person, and they just wear everybody out until there's no relationship. It's as simple as that. They just wear everybody out. But again, this is why you've got to do your homework when you meet people, not to be cruel, but just to see if you're going to be wasting your time or not. Because these rodents and parasites will come out from under the woodwork. And if it's domestically formed, part of the culture of these people, it will plague any possibility of a sensible or healthy relationship, to the point where there won't be one. And it doesn't matter how hard you try or the other person tries, if the problem is not dealt with and resolved, it will beat the relationship. It's as simple as that. That's just how it works. That's the nature of unresolved. That's why people say, why don't you talk about love and all that very often? Because guess what? You can love somebody as much as you like, but without resolve, I can guarantee you, you're going to end up apart. It's just how it works. That's what divide is. Divide and division comes in the form of unresolved. And these simple, basic principles are so taken for granted and avoided, the understanding of them. The dating websites and all that are making a fortune out of it, because people go back on and away they go again. Stay off the dating websites. Do not go on those sites. They're realizing now that they're primarily used by predators that have no intention of building anything productive for the people that they meet. They're just looking for sexual, financial supply. And if things go wrong, they just cancel out and go to the next. You have to stay off those dating sites. They're just not for your welfare and benefit. Is that guaranteeing that if you walk up to people and meet them that it's going to be any different? No. but you're staying in touch with the courage and the integrity that you need to navigate life the way that it was supposed to be. And that's in person, not talking to people that you haven't met, you can't see, you don't even know, the first thing about them. The next thing you're out with them. No. Stay away. I'm telling you and I'm warning you from those dating sites. Learn to be alone and conquer that, and the rest will happen. You see, dating sites are no different to alcohol and dope and amphetamines and psychedelics. They're a convenience to try and take away a pain without a guarantee that it's going to work. And like drugs, the more you use them, the more you gravitate back towards them. They become an addiction. They become a solution. And if ever I've seen a satanic way in which the fabric of unity and the fabric of relationships has been undermined, really it's been undermined through the convenience and the nastiness in terms of lack of integrity in the dating sites, and they're making billions out of it as I speak. So it comes down to what your values are, whether you really want to be transparent and honest with people that you find yourself engaging with, how well you can navigate and spot the problems that they're going to have, and whether you want to go on with that. You're not there to rescue people that haven't made the effort to have their life where it should be. And you better make sure your life's where it should be too. It's not about everybody else. You can only measure people as far as you damn well measure yourself. And it's your responsibility to lead these principles of love and respect and dignity as best as you can. And if you're not, then you're no different to the troublemakers of this world. That's all there is to it. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.